Hi, this is Theo from PocketBlocks.com. Today I'm going to review two black inks from Kuretake. One is the Black Ink 60 and the other is Sumi Ink 60. In this video I'm going to look at some of the differences between these two. These two inks are also known as the Zig Cartoonist ink. They are made for manga drawing. And here it says very smooth flowing Sumi ink for manga drawing. Let's turn around and see what it's made of. It's said here to contain calcium chloride. There's no mention of the actual material that's used to create the ink. And here it says water-based pigment, waterproof when dry. So I'm going to test that out later. Sumi ink is usually created by grinding those ink stick. And the next ink that I have is the Black Ink 60. This ink bottle is a bit dirty because when Amazon shipped this to me, somehow the cap was slightly open and some of the ink actually spilled out, so this is quite dirty. Here it says very quick drawing Sumi ink for manga drawing. So this is also a type of Sumi ink. And there's no mention of what's made, the material that's used to make this. This is made in Japan. Yes, that's all. The bottle itself is actually plastic. Capacity for this bottle is 60 ml, so that's quite a lot of ink. One thing I like about this bottle is it has a large opening when compared to other bottles. So you can see here the opening is significantly bigger compared to this bottle here. This is the Bombay Black India ink. Now with such a big opening, it makes it very suitable for use with dip pens like this. You can access the ink very easily and you can just basically just dip it inside. However, with a small opening, it's a bit difficult for me to actually put it inside, and if I were to reach for the ink, I will make this rubber grip dirty. So usually for this type of ink, I need to pour some of it out to access it. And also when I'm using brush, if I accidentally hit the opening, I might damage the hair of the brush. So if you are someone who likes to draw with dip pens or brushes for inking, then get a bottle with a big opening like this. Another thing I like about the Kuretake bottle is the cap is actually they have this little groove here, so you can put your brush here when it's not in use. But of course, if you are not using the ink for a long period of time, it's best to just cap it to prevent it from drying. Since this is Sumi ink and the other one is a variation of Sumi ink, you can add water to wet it again if the ink actually dries out. On the left side, I will be using black ink, and on the right side will be the Sumi ink. So I'm going to use my dip pen to dip into the black ink and see how well it picks up and how well it draws. And for this side, it will be the Sumi ink. Let me clean this first. When it comes to using the dip pen with both inks, there really isn't a lot of difference. They are both very dark, very black. And now let's use the brush to see how well the inks perform when covering large areas. I'm using black ink now. Now usually when using ink like this, I would test how well they are at overlapping, how well they are at creating a flat, even wash. Let's see how this will look like when it's dry later. I'm using cartridge paper and it works quite well on this paper. The ink doesn't feather. And the last thing I want to test is When I use the ink in concentration, whether or not they will dry as a matte black surface, or will there be some sort of discoloration. Alright, so this is for the black ink. Now I'm going to move on to use Sumi ink. I've just washed my brush and dried it, and now I am using Sumi ink. Same thing, I want to create a flat wash with this brush. I think there's some problem with my paper. I'm not sure why. And let's see how well this performs when it comes to writing words. The ink is very dark and it doesn't feather. There's some problem with this area, probably there's some oil there, so it repels the ink. I'm going to create another wash again. So this is Sumi ink. A few minutes have passed. The black ink has dried quite quickly, but the Sumi ink, it's still wet at some areas. You can see it's still wet here and here. This is Black Ink 60, the wash that I created with the brush. So when I overlay each strokes, I do get to see some of the overlaps happening. And if you want a really flat wash, then you can overlay the wash again with another layer of black, and this is something that you can get a totally flat, even wash. So let's try and see how the ink will hold up with markers. And it holds up very, very well. Now I'm going to use my water brush and see if it's waterproof. It is quite waterproof, so no problem at all if you want to use watercolor with this ink. With the Sumi ink, it doesn't dry that quickly. These are still wet. Not just that, when it dries, when you use the ink in concentration, when it dries, it gives off that sheen. You can see some of it reflecting the light. So this is not totally matte as compared to Black Ink 60. As for the wash that you can create, well, this is quite flat, so I only use one layer for this, and this is very dark and very flat. So if you want a flat wash, perhaps Sumi is better, but this does not dry that quickly, so that's the downside. Now let's try using Copic markers over the Sumi ink. I think it holds up quite well. And let's try the water brush. And here we can see that this is water resistant, I would say, but not totally waterproof. So this is not ink that I would want to use with watercolor. And let's compare it with the black ink again. So you see here with black ink, some of the ink actually came off, but it's not too much. So this I would consider it's still waterproof, whereas if you take a look at Sumi ink, it not just comes off, it's starting to feather as well when the surface is wet. So between these two, I prefer the Black Ink 60 because this is waterproof when dry and it dries faster. So when it comes to using brushes, dip pens, I will choose the Black Ink 60. Now for Sumi ink, this is a bit weird because, well, here it says that it's water-based pigment, it's waterproof when dry, but clearly when I used it earlier on, it's not waterproof. The other thing is, it says here it's very smooth flowing Sumi ink, but when I use it, when I compare it to the black ink, it's, well, both are smooth flowing, so there's not too much difference. That's all for my review today. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comment section below. Now on my website, I have a lot of black ink review. You might want to check that out. The link is in the video description. Thanks for watching. I hope this video has been helpful. See you in the next video. Bye.